Welcome to PhD with Woman on It Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our returning guest, Kelly Hoey. Topic: Unlock your career potential. Network like a pro with Kelly Hoey. Episode 150 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo. And empathy is critical when you're unlocking your career potential and networking like a pro. In today's digital age, your network is more important than ever. It's not just about getting your foot in the door, it's about unlocking career changing opportunities and reaching the top. We are thrilled to welcome back Kelly Hoey, the author of acclaimed book Build Your Dream Network. She's a networking guru lauded by Forbes, Business Insider, and Fast Company. In this interview, Kelly will share proven strategies for building powerful relationship, taking your career to the next level, and you'll learn how to network effectively, secure high impact positions, leverage your network, and have fun with us. Kelly, where in the world are you today?
Well, I'm in New York City, so we'll probably get a siren or two, and everyone will know exactly where I am.
Absolutely. So am I, and it's such a pleasure to have this, let's say, remote breakfast because we talked about the private breakfast, which was the question we always ask at the end of the show. So the question was, who would you like to invite to a private breakfast and where would you go to? So even though it's remote location, the Wall Street Hotel I'm in and Kelly is somewhere over there.
Somewhere in Midtown. But we have them in New York now, and I think I've seen them in London, maybe other cities. That tea around town. Have you seen those buses, Bata? It's like the double-decker bus. They do the bus tours, but you can have tea and crumpets and see the city. I think if I was going to have do a breakfast, I was like, okay, I should have had the bus pick me up here. And then we drive down to Wall Street and get you. And then we'd have our conversation and we'd just pick up people on the way and have breakfast with us. What do you think?
It would be like a networking bus or networking train or however you would call it.
The women on the double-decker IT bus. I don't know. It would be great.
It would be good fun because I've seen it in Miami, I believe, and there were some guy at the back of the double-decker inviting people to hop on. So that would be a perfect great.
What's Patrick up to? Get him on the back of the bus, inviting people on.
Oh, totally. What music would you play?
You know what? As long as it's women artists, I'd be good.
Yeah. Oh.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, it would be just like music by women on the bus. That's what it would be.
Would it be Cranberries? The Cranberries, because you're Irish, right?
Well, I've got my Irish citizen. I'm also Canadian, so we can get a little Alanis Morissette, some Shania Twain. We can get a whole Joni Mitchell. I tell you, we could really go at it. I grew up on the West Coast. I love Heart. Come on, we could have, we could really get a playlist going. I live in New York, so gotta get Alicia Keys. Woof. A whole lot. Got a lot going on.
Well, you're the citizens of the world. I only have one passport, whereas Patrick is like, he's got his British, he's Irish, you're Canadian, Irish, American, and I'm just like, little thing. Yeah. And until a couple of years back, I couldn't travel freely to United States because we had to apply for a visa. And that always scared me to go to this embassy thing and queue and ask, please let me in. Whereas now I can fill in ESTA and just go in. But anyway, We can talk and talk, Kelly, but the
But
reason we're
one
here
of
today.
the yeah, but I think that's a really important point you're raising, that and why your community is so important, that women see the potential, they see the possibilities, they see women who have strived and persevere to achieve, because none of us necessarily choose to come into this world where we land. We just arrive, and what comes with that is all sorts of responsibilities and sometimes barriers based on where we're born. So, yeah, I think you raise an important point, whether you realized or not, with the whole thing with the passport. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because a couple of 2 years ago, I was speaking to my auntie. We gathered as we could gather. It's either the wedding or the funeral. And my auntie was so excited. She told me, I've been to Italy. And that was like a big revelation to her, because you have to understand, people who are listening to us or will be listening to us in a couple of years' time, it used to be very difficult for Eastern Bloc communist Poland to travel anywhere in the world. You had to apply for a passport, and not everybody would get it. So the fact that she could travel to Italy was a big thing for her. And I tried to get my mom to travel as well, and she loved the idea, but she was so strict with her money because she's been through a poverty. She was
Mm-hmm.
queuing to get aid during the communists, during the Cold War, and so on. So it is almost unimaginable for my parents or the previous generation. The only way they could travel is if they fought in the war. My grandfather, for example, could travel because he was a soldier. Anyway, back to the
You know what?
future.
The future, and the real positivity about what we have and appreciating it. Okay.
Oh, totally, totally, because we don't realize how great it is to connect from one part of the world to the other, even if we are in New York, which can just have a coffee, tea, or whatever. I'm actually drinking
Mm-hmm.
tea. It's a suspicious looking concoction, but it's a tea. Don't worry.
It's not a bourbon first thing in the morning. Got it.
No, no, absolutely. Although there is something to celebrate, because we are going to finally meet with Kelly. Just a snippet of information to our viewers. We are going to meet in New York Stock Exchange to ring the closing bell, because Patrick, my husband, has got 25th anniversary of his book publishing. So New York Stock Exchange, the great location for many, many meetings. So, what can we take out here, Kelly? Because it's a huge location. Not everybody can get in. But if you want to get in, there are some opportunities. So, networking is one key component of opportunities meets luck.
Yeah, but let's think about what the New York Stock Exchange, represents. I mean, there is the, I want to say, the reputation, the pinnacle for many companies to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So it represents vision. It represents ambition. You're listed on the stock exchange because you're providing something of value. You're listed on the stock exchange because of contributions in terms of employees and communities, not just dollars, and that ability to bring a vision from a small idea to life and bring that community along with you. So even though we could look and see with publicly listed companies, whether it's the CEOs or the boards, they don't have the representation, and they're not as reflective of what our society looks like. I think it, in terms of women and ambition, is to look at it and say, right, what is this bigger thing that the stock exchange represents, and how am I moving in a direction with my, whether it's your career or your company, where am I moving into vision that I become such a, storied reputation and kind of pillar that other people want to aspire to be, connected into and part of.
Oh, absolutely. But look at the CEO of New York Stock Exchange. Lynn Martin is actually leading the change for and being on top of a huge stock exchange is definitely something to aspire to become
Yeah.
one day, because we
Yeah.
need more role models like Lynn Martin, like yourself, Kelly.
Like you. But also, this is like one of those things. Like, where do women belong? We belong in the stock exchange, right? We belong having big visions brought to life. The other thing the stock exchange represents, it's about investment. Where are you investing in yourself? And where are you investing in what it is that you believe and want to see? So, as you like to say, invest in the change you want to see in the world. If you want to see more women succeeding, then invest in them. That means investing in yourself. That means investing in women who are on your team. That means investing in, perhaps the products and services and companies of other women. There's only one way to get that way. And we're at an interesting inflection point. Right now, it's the biggest wealth transfer in, human history. And the amount of money that is landing in the hands of women. We have a choice to make the world out there that we're seeing, we have a choice to make it look different. And we can do that with how we spend, how we invest, where we direct, our resources. And that's a choice that we as women have power over. And even if you were watching this thinking, but you have a choice in terms of, perhaps, if you're fortunate, since we've had the passport conversation, a choice on where you buy your groceries. Is it the farmer's market from this person, or is it, a big conglomerate? We can make those choices on a daily basis. So I think even if women think, well, I can't buy shares in a company yet. I don't make enough money to be an angel investor. You are making spending decisions, and think about how you're making those spending decisions.
Think about how you're spending, but also what really inspires you, because I think what is really critical is making even a small talk. When you talk about small groceries, these people who during the afternoon they pick up stuff to then put it into their stall in the morning, and it's over and over, and you can learn so much from talking to everybody around you, right? Can talk about this little people, the small people that really are critical to your career, because they will remember you when you fall down from the top, right?
Right. Well, I think we forget the momentous impact that small, consistent actions over time. And we always sort of think with networking like some big, grandiose, activity is going to unlock a network for us. Whereas people remember how you make them feel. People remember, if you remembered little details about them, and they remember if you consistently show up and show who you are. Why does the New York Stock Exchange have its reputation? Not because it showed up yesterday, but it has been consistent in terms of its behavior and how it operates and its rules and who gets in every single day. And so we as humans, people interacting with others, you need to say, what, how do I show up every day? And am I showing up every day? We overestimate, whether or not someone is going, we overestimate sometimes how uncomfortable things are, and underestimate how less awkward things are going to be. We really underestimate the value of just telling someone thank you, or I really appreciate what you did, or expressing that gratitude. And Bata, you mentioned empathy before. Empathy is huge, and it is not difficult. David Brooks, in his book, what's it called? How to See a Person. he mentions his greatest interview of all time. And I mean, this is a guy who has, award-winning journalist, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, all the, accolades in terms of best-selling author. His greatest interview of all time happened in 1991 in Moscow, in Red Square, big, protest out there in Red Square. And he meets a 94-year-old woman. This is his greatest interview. Why is it his greatest interview? Because he asked this woman, like, what brings you here? Like, here's this 94-year-old woman. Mm-hmm. What brings you here? And she sort of said, well, this brings me here. And he looks at her, he goes, like, tell me more. And then she told a bit of her story, and he goes, and then what happened? And then all he said to her is, then what happened? And she unfolded a story of her life that started with her family living and working for the Tsar, surviving, all of that chaos, getting through World War II, getting through, you think of all of Russian history and then into Soviet history. And then here she was in Red Square for a protest. And he says, this is his greatest interview. So when I hear, and you started this question with, the idea of small, like small business, small talk, we can choose to keep small talk small, or we can proactively step into making it something bigger. And that is something that is within our power to control. And I encourage you to invite and accept the invitation to have small talk turn into bigger talk.
Oh, I love it. I've got chills down my spine, Kelly. As always with you, interviewing you, there is so many aha moments. I love that. So beyond the traditional elevator pitch or small talk, what are some creative ways to introduce yourself and to build rapport during the networking opportunities?
Well, what I would encourage, since you mentioned elevator pitch, what I would encourage everyone to do is write down your elevator pitch. Write it down. And I don't care if it's a 30-second, 60-second, 90-second elevator pitch. And then I would like you to look at it and say, where in the first sentence do I put a pause? Like that pause, like a big pause. Japanese businessmen are comfortable with an 8-second pause. We are no near that in the Western world. We probably can stand about a half second, if that. So where are you going to put a pause? And where I encourage you to put a pause is after about your first 6 or 7 words. Because then it invites the other person to lean in and say, tell me more. And then you're turning your elevator pitch or your introduction into a conversation. So let me give you an example. There was a woman she was a partner at a big firm, and I was coaching her. And she was putting together her elevator pitch, for business development, whether she was at a networking event or something else. And she started off like, I said, all right, let's just do it we'll practice this. We'll do it with like you're just doing the usual question thing. So we're at an event and I come up to you and say, hi, I'm Kelly. Who are you and what do you do? And she's like, hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm a partner at, oh my God, it was so, I looked at her, I said, oh my God, this is so boring. Secondly, if you just dump a bunch of legal jargon on me, I'm just going to phase out. Where's the, give me something that I don't want to at a, New York networking event, meet someone and then, want to do a super big gulp on my drink and run and get another one to get away from them. So I said to her, what do you really do? She said, looked at me and she said, I open new markets in the pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. I said to her, oh, tell me more. She says, I'm an intellectual property attorney and I represent manufacturers and pharmaceutical manufacturers of the, I would say, I want to get the right term here, the non-big, like the small upstart kind of ones of drug companies. And what I do is we challenge weak patents held by big pharma so that cheaper copies can get on the market. I said, what do you mean weak patents? All of a sudden, what had previously been a conversation of, or like an elevator pitch, which was just sort of a tsunami of jargon and words and no story and disconnect, because of 6 or 7 words and a pause that invited conversation, and then a sharing of information to learn all about weak patents and generic drugs and all the rest of this kind of stuff. It was absolutely fascinating. And here I am coaching her, and I'm like, tell me more. Like, this is interesting. This isn't me. This is beyond me coaching you now. This is me fascinated by what you do. And that's what we want. So as much as I think it's important to, kind of practice an elevator pitch, there's times when you're going to have to get on stage, you're going to have to, use these things. But if you're in front of another person, I strongly encourage you to say, right, what are the building blocks of my elevator pitch? How do I turn this into a conversation? And one way to do that is insert the pause after about the first 6 to 10 words.
Perfect strategy. And I feel obliged to now fill in the gap after this pause. That's a build your dream pitch strategy. And your book emphasizes forging genuine connections. How can we navigate the fine line between building relationships and appearing self-serving? Because quite often we are trying to sell. Life seems to be transactional. How to appear genuine and interested?
Listen, some things are transactional, right? You do have it, but think of it this way. And I learned this from Janet Hansen, founder of 85 Broads, and she had been a trader on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs. Some things are good trades. So decide, we'll just keep on this stock exchange reference today, but this is where, what's a good trade for the other person? Like what's wrong with saying, you know what? I know you have this problem, or you have this, you have this need. I have the solution for it. I think that's something that, in terms of women, to be able to say, right, I did meet this person last night. I've known them for a hot half second, but I have what they need. I am going to pitch them this because I know I can sell them, so I can save their business, or I can expand their business, or I can help their business. What I ruffle at, a lot of times, and particularly women, that, they think of networking as transactional. So when they think they don't have a transaction, they're not networking. But the reality is that the thing that a lot of women, sort of bristle with networking is the word transactional comes up. If you were showing up continuously for your network, you're just there. You're there to be interested. You're there to listen. Maybe you're there to pass on information. Maybe you're just like, I don't know, we'll see what happens sometime down the road. That is I want to say the building of a network around you, the noun, the network, versus engaging in what I think can turn into an inauthentic feeling activity, because you have left relationship building to a low priority back burner item, and now you're showing up at a time of high need, as opposed to being able to sit down and say, gosh, I've got some things I want to get done. Who do I know? Who in my network, if I place an email, place a call, they will, pick up and provide me with some solutions. So, hopefully that provides some guidance. I think the showing up continuously, to understanding that consistency in showing up and being there, even when you don't need anything, is really critical to building the relationships that you authentically want and need around your career, your venture, your business.
Well, we talked about it so many times, Kelly, because we had previous episode, it was episode 15, we talked about building the success network you need, and episode 83, networking strategies for a seat at the table. And quite often we struggle with being intentional, with showing that we really want to get that job or we want to get that position at the table. So your strategy, number one strategy, to stop dwelling and being cerebral about building transaction.
Yeah, and I think the first thing women need to do is admit what they want. Like, what is it you want? I think there is an element in all of this, Bata, about owning our desires and our ambitions. It rubs against, I mean, I don't know where you put the pin down in the world. It rubs against, stereotypes, expectations. And, not only can, the other gender be hard on women, we can be hard on other women ourselves. So I think there's an element of women owning what they want and choosing how to go after it. And rather than all of us criticizing, I think it's a way of saying, okay, she's going after this, and why not? And why not me?
Absolutely. Then it comes the fact of we are sometimes not narrowing down what really we want. You talked about it in some interviews about, I'm looking for a job. Can you recommend something? And it's such a broad task to give to someone. So what should we do instead? How should we approach what we need and narrow it down so all the work is on us, not the other person?
Yes. I was talking to someone about this just yesterday. And as I like to say, there's some neuroscience involved here. As to neuroscience, they refer to this thing between our ears as a cognitive miser, which I absolutely adore that expression. And I do think of it this way. When we are lacking specificity with our networking ask or our pitch, what you're running into is the cognitive miser, the brain, the mind of the person that you're making the ask to. And the brain, to simplify all of this, the mind, takes an inordinate amount of calories that you consume each day to operate compared to its size and weight with everything else going on in your body. So if it can save energy, it will. It is why we fall into habits. It's why it's hard to break out of habits. It's why we take the same path. It's why the brain, in the fullest sense of the term, is biased, because if it's easier to pattern match, I take this route, I interview these kinds of people because they look like me. Like, I go to these kinds of events to network because I've gone to them before and they look the same. If the brain can pattern match and conserve energy by pattern matching and not exerting any more energy than it needs to, because it's the cognitive miser, then it will do that. So when you hit someone in your network with a big, broad, I'm looking for investors. Can you help me? Hey, Kelly, do you know of anyone? This thing between our ears shuts down. Okay, after it has a complete freak out saying, oh my God, too much energy, like red lights going off, kind of like a bunch of minions in there, like freaking out, right? And that's what you need to realize. It's like, oh, I'm sending off warning signals. Okay, I'm afraid to ask for what I want because I really want it and my ego, and I'm going to be shattered, and oh, it's crazy that I'm reaching for this thing, and whatever's going on in your mind, you know what, let me just make it easier. Just, I'll be less disappointed if I ask for this and not for what I really want. Or maybe you think to yourself, it'll be easier for the other person if I just say I'm looking for a job. It's not. It is not easier. We're not This thing in all years of evolution has not been wired to like, be free flowing in the sense of, oh yeah, I got lots of energy. I got lots of time to look around everywhere for it. It's not built for that. It is built to go for targeted things. So the best thing you can do is plant that intention of yours, the thing you want to manifest, that new job, that dream investor, whatever it is, that specific thing. The best thing you can do is plant that in the brain of the other person, as opposed to something big and expansive and amorphous that they will not act upon.
Beautiful. Couldn't summarize it better. Now,
little neuroscience lesson in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's use another buzzword, AI. How is it helping Kelly to navigate through the maze of networking, or is it being used at all?
Listen, I'm having some great conversations around AI. I'm part of a great community that Collective Eye and their Collective Eye forecast community, where there's amazing conversations, and it's an AI company that's fueling this. But, AI is only as good as the people putting in information. But if we think it's going to be substitute, I think, you know what, the real answer on all of this, Bata, is that what's more valuable now with the ability of technology to take and do tasks for us is for us living, breathing, stardust filled, blood flowing, heart beating human beings to be more human. We need to become the best humans we can be, because technology can't do that. So I was actually got a survey in this past week on my thought, like to get my reaction to certain uses of artificial intelligence and industries and sectors and things I was comfortable in. And it was fascinating to do because, sort of forced me to think about it. And there's some areas that I'm frankly not comfortable, and other areas I'm like, bring it on. And healthcare is one of those. I'm really comfortable. Imagine the ability of technology to scan more records, more data, to give a more accurate, diagnosis of an X-ray, an MRI, a mammogram, whatever, than a human being. I'm like, bring it on that AI can do that. And then give me a really empathetic, compassionate healthcare professional to talk to me about it. I don't think AI replaces the healthcare professional, but it requires them to really have more of that extraordinary human touch and bedside manner that we all want.
And that human touch is critical when you're networking, so it can't be replaced. However, AI can provide some hints and tips on networking, can it?
Well, you can, you know what, you can use it to get a lot of information. You can get it to get a lot of information to perhaps inform yourself before you go into a networking event, maybe looking for information and insights on, a culture, whether that's a country culture or a business culture. Maybe you're getting more information on a particular group. Maybe it's a particular topic. Maybe you're going and there's a panel of esteemed professionals and you're like, oh my God, they're going to talk about this one latest report. Can I get AI to summarize that report for me? Because I don't have time to read this working paper that is, 900 pages. Like, there is, I think, uses of that. But, I don't know about you, but listen, the number of clearly AI generated emails that I'm getting from, I'm just going to assume they're real human beings, startup founders, thinking that somehow this automation is and the repetition and the hitting me over and over and over again with emails that have not in any way, shape, or form been written by a human being with any sort of that rational connection of the dots that only a human could do, right? Because this is not just a lot of this time when you're connecting with another person, it's not just what the rational mind says, right? Our gut and our heart, right? That needs to be connected in this too. All of us have had those times where we're like, well, rationally, I should do this, but something in my stomach is telling me not to do that. A computer, an AI, a system they don't have that. They don't have the heart. They don't have the gut brain, as some doctors will refer to the heart, brain, and the gut. They don't have that. And that's what you need to do. So you're like, great. Am I doing a networking task? Am I doing some things that, you know what? Maybe I could outsource it. Maybe I could outsource it to AI. Maybe I could outsource it to automation. But what's the part that I have to put myself into fully? And you need to step in and do that.
Well, it's almost like in this joke, Saturday Night Live or wherever I've seen it, say hello if you would like to get connected to a real person, and people are trying to say hello and it doesn't recognize your voice. However, I think also, Kelly, there is a great aha moment, which is creativity. I do not think AI can replace human creativity and the art of improvisation, because so often you have this moment of your brain connects. You talked about that. I have some experience about that. And no AI gets in your brain to really talk about what you thought in that moment.
Well, let me give you a very New York and very basic kind of example that brings together some of these things between small talk and AI and whatever. I went out for an early morning walk, came back. I live in a doorman building, which means there's 3 sets of doormen, sort of shifts. And the doorman who was on was like the night shift. So, coming up on 8 in the morning, usually not the most chipper human being in the world because he's been up all night. And he's kind of excited. And I said, hey, how are you? And he's like, good, I've got butterflies. Okay, that's weird, right? Like all of a sudden, that's an interesting word choice. First of all, you're really enthusiastic, and not just because it's a sunny day and you're getting off shift. You've used this word butterflies. You can't tell me that a computer is going to be like, butterflies. What do you mean you got butterflies? It's going to be like butterflies of da 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 da. It's going to give you some analysis rather than saying that's interesting word choice. Butterflies said by a human in this context likely means, what are you excited about? What's going on? What's different with your day? With what's happening with you? Let's have a conversation about that. And it ends up he's taking a road trip, going to the Midwest for the first time. And that was, right? And all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to flying into Omaha. And I'm like, I know someone there. They've got a great store. Fabulous female entrepreneur. You should go and see her. She'll have recommendations between here and when you get to Denver. It was great. But again, that idea that would a computer, would AI say, when someone says butterflies, you should ask them if they're taking a road trip? No, maybe it would say that because someone put that in once, and that's maybe what AI would do. But again, this is where you need to be human. It's also an example of the opportunity to take, a conversation that could stay very surface level, right? And just go a little bit deeper, a little bit. Butterflies? Why do you got butterflies at 8 in the morning? Taking a road trip, right? Anyway.
Well, I thought he's gonna say he fell in love with you, but anyway.
See,
exactly.
if he'd said butterflies, you're like, what do you mean butterflies, right?
Exactly.
Let's explore this, right? So there's the difference in where the uniqueness of humans and our own experience and what we bring to an interaction. And I think it's really important and powerful for us to do that and embrace it.
Oh, absolutely. So you think that AI will replace people?
No. Well, I mean, listen, if we keep being robotic jerks, absolutely. Replace us with AI if we're going to be like that, right? Like if we're just going to keep sending automated emails and networking transactionally, then you know what? Take it AI. I'll happily go in a cave with, the address only a few people know of so that I can interact meaningfully with them. But if everyone's going to be sort of this, other level of non-empathetic, human networking, fine, AI can take it over.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've got a story to tell you, Kelly, because last week I was in Berlin and I checked in the hotel and it turned out their AC wasn't working. So this guy, the manager who greeted me in the afternoon, said, I'm gonna swap it. You just wait. Maybe it will be working. So I've been waiting for an hour. I had to come downstairs because there was no information whatsoever about how to call the reception and so on. It was a total mess. And eventually I got somebody to swap my room. However, the next morning I come to the same guy, the manager, who didn't look after me properly the previous day. And he asked, cheerily, how was your day? Good morning. And not really caring about my morning because, if he remembered the fact that I had a struggle for 2 hours ahead of my live stream, he would say, I'm sorry about yesterday. I hope you had a good night. But really, he was not engaging his brain. So I can see how some people may feel threatened by AI.
You see, you would have rather had an AI manager who all they said was, hi, welcome to the hotel. Hi, did you have a good stay? Because then you'd be like, just some jerky robot. Terrific. But when it's a human, you expect more. And we deserve to be more for each other.
Absolutely. Use that empathy because empathy is my mojo and empathy is critical.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to personal branding, Kelly. I think you've done such a great, amazing job with your personal branding because, after all, not only we invited you 3 times to our live stream, but also you being recognized by many great publications and so on. So what's your secret sauce, Kelly?
Listen, this is like decide what you want and then fully immerse and get involved in it. I mean, part of all of this too is I believe that your personal brand is what your network says it is. And your network will know who you are and what you stand for only if you get involved. So that is, showing up consistently. That is, rolling up your sleeves, engaging the way, you want who you are and how you want to be perceived so that they are in alignment. So, we all have a choice. We can sit back and say, oh, I'll just put on a fancy font on my website and that'll be my personal brand, whatever. But really, it's about how you interact and rub with other people. So you can say that, your personal brand is XYZ. And, if you polled your network, they might say, actually, no, it's A, B, and C, and it's not good. So how do you show up? And how are you showing up in a way that is reflective of how you want your network talking about you?
Another pause brought by Kelly. Think about it. And let's go towards the end questions because we are quite late in the day and we want to see the world. Beautiful New York, New York. Looking ahead, what trends do you see shaping the future of professional networking?
I'm going to say, I think the biggest thing is likely niche networks as people lose faith in big platforms. So I think there's that desire for higher touch as opposed, not completely losing the desire for mass reach, but I think the desire for authentic connection means more niche, bespoke, and focused networks. I almost want to say to some people, like, beware of just the need to expand your network. Like if you had a community-based platform, beware the sort of the desire to expand beyond, being niche in terms of your focus, in terms of your audience. I think that's where the value comes, is like niching. So yeah.
We have a couple of great quotations here to use, prepared by Racy. Thank you very much, Racy. The currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity, Adam Grant said. So can you dwell on that?
Yeah, and that's such a great quote, and the generosity is so critical. It's also a massive stumbling block. So there might be a lot of members of your community and this viewing community who understand that networking is sort of a give, get. That's sort of a classic kind of equation. And they're wondering what their give or what their generosity is when they are someone who might be in the greater need or need something that they may feel is outsized from who they're asking. Like you think of a mentee-mentor relationship. And this is where I say, that networking generosity is, are you respectful of the other person's time? Are you understanding of what it is that, they have the potential to help you with? Like fully understanding that. Where is your generosity in putting yourself in the other person's shoes to sort of say, right, let me understand things from their perspective so that I, in crafting my networking ask, I am honoring that and showing them that I acknowledge what that is they're doing for me. I remember a woman who, very senior tech professional at Microsoft, and she was very much supportive of helping other women, and particularly women of color, get into the tech industry. And so when people who fit that category would email her and saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, and, or hey, I'm looking for mentorship and blah, 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 can I get some advice? She would always try and take the meeting. And she said she finally stopped which is really awful, but there was too many times that someone would schedule a mentor call for her and show up late, schedule a mentor call and not show up. And she would be the one following up with these people who wanted her mentorship. And she said the last, the straw that broke the camel's back was the person who said, oh yeah, well, anyway, I was busy. I just wanted to send you my resume to get a job. And I'm like, okay, generosity is understanding this tech executive wants to help, right? So saying, all right, she wants to help. Let me respect that generosity, because if I am not respectful of that, she may cut this off for everyone, not just me. Okay, how do I respect her generosity? If she says she'd give me 15 minutes, I am going to show up for those 15 minutes, and I'm going to be prepared. And I'm going to have read her resume, and I'm going to read everything, and I'm going to let her, I am going to have my talking points, and I'm going to be prepared. And by the way, after we have that 15 minutes, I'm going to thank her. And as I go through the next interviews or opportunities, whether they're ones that she gives me or not, I'm going to follow up and let her know. That's generosity. Generosity in this networking world we live in now doesn't mean you have to make an intro for an intro, or a job offer for a job offer. It doesn't need to be that kind of version of Hammurabi's laws, right? Like eye for an eye. It does not need to be that. It needs to understand, why is this person doing this? Okay, how do I behave in a way that they're going to still want to do this for me or anybody else? And respect and honor that. That is the utmost in generosity.
Exactly, Kelly. That's interesting topic, because I had to set some boundaries. So to those who are very generous, what would be the way to approach that without cutting the stream of generosity? How do you set boundaries and still feel good about you're giving enough?
Well, this is where I would say to people, we're all going to have our own boundaries. Understand what your boundaries are, because the most generous thing you can do is to set and establish your boundaries. And this is going to be different for all of us, because we all know when our boundaries are crossed. And instead of getting mad that this boundary's been crossed, say, oh, okay, I hadn't established this before. And I think there's, particularly for really busy people, the idea of being able to say to people, here's how I take meetings, or here's how why not set forward our communication and interaction preferences? Here's the best way we can work together. Here's how I can help you. Here's what I need, right? To move, whatever it may be, establish that container. Maybe you're the type of person who, some of your mentorship, let's just keep mentorship as a topic. Maybe your mentorship is you love to do that, but you don't have a lot of time. Well, find that 30 minutes and say, you know what, people, I do great mentoring here. Here's the day, here's the time, show up. And just say, that's the only time I can do this. If someone says, oh, I can't do it then, can I? No, this is when I do it. Maybe the other thing in terms of, I would say to people who want to be generous and know that they have this limitation, right? Because I think sometimes we move our boundaries. We go beyond our limits because we're like, oh God, you know what? Have a roster of people you can recommend. Always have that handy. Oh gosh, I'd love to do that, webinar. I'm not available then. Here's 3 people you should talk to. Because how many of us do get, oh my God, Bata, you're the only one who could do this. And you're thinking to yourself, I am not the only one who could do this. Thank you for the flattery. And here's 3 people I recommend. So that's where I'm like, all right. Yeah, how you can maintain your boundaries and not feel guilty and bad about it, communicate them, and have recommendations, particularly if you're a woman, have other women to recommend that you can put in your place.
Beautiful. Kelly, we are almost at the end of the show. I'm wondering, anything changed in terms of your life lesson quote?
Which life lesson quote are we working on mine now? I think, sort of like New Year's resolutions. What am I updating? What have I updated?
Here is one I want to
Yes.
bring to this discussion, because you talked about your book, Build Your Dream Network, and there is a great quotation by Les Brown: "Walk with the dreamers, the believers, the courageous, the cheerful, the charitable, and the forgiving. They will take you places you never dreamed possible."
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, too often your network sees more in you than you see in yourself. So you know what? Expand your network. Make it sure that it is diverse. Make sure that it is a network that lifts you up as opposed to fueling you with their fears. Make sure that you've got a network that, not only, sees bigger possibilities in you, but can, support you in pursuing those bigger possibilities.
Absolutely. Kelly, that's been wonderful to host you again. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences and your great passion. When is the book coming?
Oh, I'd say I have chapters with my literary agent, and I'm so excited. She has tons of comments. So I have drafted, ripped apart, redrafted. She said to me, I got to warn you, I got lots of comments. I'm like, good. I don't know what it is this time. It's like, bring it on. I want the feedback. I want more of that input. I don't think the first book, I was at a time and a place where getting a bunch of feedback or criticism, constructive criticism from somebody would have been, I don't think I was in a place to take it, honestly. I think because of my life circumstances and where I was at, I was feeling pretty fragile. So I think if anyone had said, this kind of sucks, Kelly, rewrite it, I think I would have shattered, honestly. And this time around, I'm like, no, bring it on. Bring it on. So I'm excited to get her comments.
Excellent. And let's not forget, to those who didn't watch our previous show, the book is a very scientific approach. Kelly, tell us about the scientific approach to this episode of your dream network.
Yeah, there's just some very interesting research on the network structure. So let's think the noun, not the verb. The noun network, the people around you. There's very interesting research on the network structure of high achieving women. And high achieving women have and leverage a very different network structure than anybody else. And given that this is a pattern that appears across industries and sectors, so it's not limited to women in corporate America or women going into corporate America or something like that, it sort of behooves every woman who has bigger and bigger desires for what they do with their life. And I put it that way because it's not just about grabbing a brass ring or ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It's not just about ambition in terms of, the dollars and the number of zeros behind a number in your bank account. Is like, what do you want to do? And here is a very critical network structure, as well as some other factors that you need to think about and start kind of looking at your life, what it is you're pursuing, how you're pursuing it, and who you've got around you that, behooves you to change. If the pieces aren't in place to get what you want.
Mm. As always, our positivity quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day. Even if some days you have to look a little bit harder. Kelly, it's been a pleasure to host you today. I'm looking forward to the book publishing. Stay tuned, everybody. And in the meantime, you can book Build Your Dream Network online, whichever sources you choose, and check the website of Kelly Hoey. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Whether it's networking, whether it's this morning coffee you have, wherever in the world you are, please pursue your dreams and pursue your dream network of the future. Today is your day to hack the future you want. Thank you.